It is a mysterious thing, the loss of faith, as mysterious as faith itself. For some, leaving their religion means more than choosing not to believe in one specific version of God. It means losing family, friends, community, support, literally the entire ground their life was built on. For me, it all began when I was just a kid. For varying reasons, my family had decided to stop going to church, but my mom still wanted me to be able to make the choice myself. She sat me at my bed every night for weeks, reading the Bible to me for hours at a time. When we were finished, she closed it, turned to me, maybe 9 years old, and said, "Okay, it's up to you now. Don't let me or anyone else tell you what to believe." To this day, those words still echo in my ears, reminding me that this decision is never final, and never easy. After all, being an atheist is more than letting go of the God your family or society gave you. It's a lifelong struggle to redefine, reconstruct, and recreate ourselves in a life without final meaning. Finding happiness in this place, it can be hard, but I do think it is possible. Here's something a lot of people don't understand about people who call themselves atheists. Most of them are optimistic, caring people who really just wanted to believe in something higher, in a general force for good watching over the world that they could be a part of, but some kind of tragedy ripped it away from them. Many so-called atheists are forged from a place of pain, a wound that tells them to be careful every time they get close to falling for something like that again. Never shall I forget those moments that murdered my God and my soul and turned my dreams to ashes. The people most against something are usually the ones who just made that mistake and learned the hard way. But right here is where I also want to make a point about the journey after leaving a given notion of God behind. Do not get stuck in hate. Don't get stuck in that place of being anti-religious, because life is really hard without a guiding light, a purpose, and a negative purpose just won't cut it. One big thing I always see is people taking up the belief that if they can't see it, if it can't be proven empirically, they just won't believe it at all. But what about goals? What about forming your own beliefs about what's possible for you and who you can become? Churchill had no evidence that the Allies could win World War II. In fact, if we took that stance then, the facts would have said to give up. It was only in blind faith, in a choice to take the leap, and to dare to seem mad to everyone else, that allowed the Allies to hold out and eventually win. So, how do we deal with this? The fact that we still seem to need some kind of faith in our lives. To be free, to be who one is, we need to learn how to create our own life with our own hands. Those who have been in the darkest of places know the truth of this, know why people turn to religion in the first place, the power of having something to believe in, and the misery of being truly alone. In his book, Man's Search for Meaning, concentration camp survivor Viktor Frankl observes that meaning plays an essential role in who survives and who doesn't. While at the camp, Frankl's father died of starvation and pneumonia, his mother and brother were murdered in the gas chambers, and on top of this, his wife died of typhus shortly after. But even after all of this, he still wrote, "Life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but only by a lack of meaning and purpose." So, leaving religion behind is not the last step in a hard process, it's the first step. And after this, we need to learn how to imbue things with our own sense of meaning. This is something really important, actually, because I see it all over social media. Build your own values, construct your own meaning, and find a meaning in a meaningless world. But what I don't see is very many people talking about how to actually do that. We need to draw attention to how hard it is to move through life without a higher purpose. Decisions can become hard and confusing. Relationships with friends and family can become difficult because of disagreements. And when things go really bad, we can find ourselves feeling alone and helpless. I think it's time we all started talking about how we do this, how each of us finds meaning in our lives. Just like when the world began to leave organized religion behind, we will fill the void with a great deal of meaningless things without even noticing. I personally, as a teenager, had turned to politics. I was young, thirsty for purpose, and eager to make a difference. This made me susceptible to the language of politicians and political influencers who pull on those strings. But the further I went down this path, the more it became no different than the religion I left behind. The things and people I aligned myself with started to influence what I thought in ways I didn't realize. I joined the military, moved from job to job, traveled, partied, locked myself away, invested, got a dog, fell in love, fell out of love. And with each big new thing, I told myself, this is it. If I just do this, I'll be happy. But sooner or later, everything changes, or we do. This is a truth for anyone who leaves meaning behind, not just God or religion, an old love, belief in a person or cause, anything that guided your life. The path to being self-determined, to being actually free, can break us, cause us to turn back or look to distractions or pursue superficial accomplishments like wealth to fill the void. But the true tragedy is when we can't make it to the end of the path we started. You get tragedy where the tree, instead of bending, breaks. This is why, if we are to be happy without religion, we somehow still need to look for higher meaning. A meaning that transcends everything that will come and go in our lives, yet still allows us to love and care for those things. The thing is, if you want to be happy as an atheist, you can't have it both ways. You can't claim that meaning in a higher power is a lie, but then find it in all of the things in life that come and go. You need to look for it in what's deeper. We need to, somehow, find the light of meaning again, in our own way. Because you don't want to get stuck in the cave pursuing the religion that tricked you. Once you've made the tough choice to venture out on your own, once you've held out in the face of all that backlash, it's time to actually redefine your life, not find someone or something else to do it for you. That said, finding the guiding light in a terrible world is difficult. But we can't be afraid, because as Plato said, we can easily forgive a child who is afraid of the dark, but the real tragedy of life is when men are afraid of the light. The key is that there's no one answer to happiness. I know that sounds cliche, people say it all the time, but it seems to me that they don't actually mean it. If they did, there would be no arguing on social media about what type of life to live. There would be no bad feelings when we compare ourselves to others. If happiness is to, say, love the people in your life, to care about the things you put work into, and to be content with the moment, and to be excited about the future, just think of how many different things could fit that for different people. You will never be happy if you continue to search for what happiness consists of. You will never live if you are looking for the meaning of life. So, to answer the question we started with, yes, of course atheists can be happy. But we have to realize that this can take many forms, including, ironically, spirituality. Atheism should be a transitory state, a way of relating to what we think reality is when the explanation we had wronged us, and we had to leave it behind. So, my challenge to you is, whether you're an atheist, agnostic, religious, but not a nihilist because they don't count, my challenge is for you to ask yourself, am I really free? I left this thing behind, but what I do now, what I say, think, who I listen to, does it really come from me? If you're unsure, it means you still have work to do. But the good news, kind of, is that we all do. That the search for meaning never goes away because it's in that chase that life is lived. So don't hate the world or previous beliefs, but figure out who you are and live as if they don't exist at all. That's the only way to really, truly be free. I was in darkness, but I took 3 steps and found myself in paradise. The first step was a good thought, the second, a good word, and the third, a good deed.